Good evening, councillors and gallery. I now declare this meeting open. This is a public meeting. It's being recorded and published on the council's website to improve access to the meeting for our community. The recording will be published and will be retained by council in accordance with council's legal obligations. As a visitor in the gallery or online, your presence may be recorded. I'll move to item number 1, which is the acknowledgement to country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which the rural city of Wangaratta communities reside. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and celebrate and respect their continuing cultures. We are committed to walking beside all traditional owners as we move towards reconciliation. And I'd also like to recognise the many people who have made our community the wonderful place it is today. Item number 2, which is our opening prayer. Almighty God, we humbly ask Thee to bless and guide this council in its deliberations so that we may truly preserve the welfare of the people whom we serve. Amen. Item 3 for number 5, acceptance of apologies or granting of leave of absence. There's nothing. We then move to item number 7, which is the confirmation of minutes, and we actually have two minutes that need to be confirmed. And I'll look to my deputy, Councillor Benton.
I'll just move the recommendation as
Could I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Fuller. So Councillor Benton has moved and Councillor Fuller has seconded. Do we all agree? Thank you. A question? Item number 8, which is conflict of interest disclosures. Do we have anyone? Receipt of petitions, hearing of deputations, councillor reports. Then we move to the business on the agenda, which is the officers' reports. Item 12.1, executive services, the 2025 council meeting dates and locations.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is to set our schedule of meeting locations and times for the 2025 year. You can see within the recommendation we've continued the practice of holding a number of meetings at rural locations, typically during the warmer and brighter months of the year. We've got a mixture of 6 o'clock starts and 3 o'clock starts, as has been the case for the last couple of years. So those meeting dates and times and locations are all there for council's consideration.
Does anyone wish to ask a question to this particular item before we deliberate? So we have a recommendation which gives a list. Councillor Fuller, can move. Thank you. Someone like the second, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Are we all in agreement? Or, well, I should say, would anyone like to speak to the recommendation? We've all voted. Good, thank you. Then we'll move to item 13.1, which is corporate and leisure, updated instruments of delegation.
Thank you. So instruments of delegation are formal documents that allow council and councillors to delegate powers and authorities to both the CEO and also directly to specific members of council staff. These delegations are reviewed periodically for operational changes, such as changes in job position titles and things like that. And we also receive regular notifications of amendments required from Maddox Law Firm to ensure that those delegations stay current with all legislation. The recommendation here is quite a long one and I won't read it all, but in essence it's asking councillors to endorse the updated instrument of delegation to the CEO and to immediately rescind the previous or revoke the previous delegations replaced with this and put those powers in place, and similarly do the same for the instrument of delegation to members of council staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Brindley. Would anyone like to ask a question to this particular item?
Madam Mayor, can I just ask a question for the CEO to explain why we should do this?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Councillor Russell. Council has obligation under many acts of Parliament in Victoria. Those pieces of legislation require the council to do or be responsible for a whole range of things. And there are many thousands of those, so clearly it's not practical for this group sitting around this table to make every decision or act on every requirement in every piece of legislation. So all of those legal requirements are attributed to a relevant position in the organisation, and those people then have the authority to carry out whatever it is that piece of legislation requires them to do. That could relate to cemeteries, planning and building, environmental health, a range of engineering obligations, all different parts of our business where legal obligations exist. People work within those parts of the business and given the authority to do whatever it is that piece of legislation requires.
So, no questions from the audience. Do we have a mover? Councillor Russell. Would someone like to second? Councillor Benton. Would either Councillor Benton or Russell like to speak to?
No, thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to the recommendation? Well, we've got a mover and a seconder. We're all in agreement. Thank you, councillors. Motion is now put. 13.2, Model Councillor Code of Conduct. Councillor, Director Brindley.
Thank you. For the last council, all Victorian councils were asked to develop their own councillor codes of conduct. In the past year or so, there's been new Local Government Act regulations published, and the Code of Conduct, now known as the Model Councillor Code of Conduct, has actually been legislated for all councillors across Victoria. It's the same Model Code of Conduct for all. So this report is presented to councillors to revoke our previous Councillor Code of Conduct, which no longer applies, and to formally note the new Model Councillor Code of Conduct, which you're all accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Brindley. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to ask a question to this particular agenda item? So, councillors, we have a recommendation. Would someone like to move it?
I'll move a motion, there's a slight alteration to point to delete the word note, putting the word right.
We need to have that moved and seconded to.
Well, I've moved.
Yeah. So, Councillor Benton, you've moved that. Councillor Fitzpatrick, you wish to second that. Councillors in agreement to this minor change to the recommendation? Okay. So, with that, are we all in agreement? Thank you. The motion's been passed. We move to item 14.1, which is community and infrastructure and the award supply of asphalt and paving services. Director Goonan.
Thank you, Mayor. This report is presented to Council to award the panel contract for the supply of asphalt and asphalt paving. Council has sought to establish a panel of suppliers to supply asphalt and asphalt paving services. Council officers reviewed opportunities for collaboration with other councils or public bodies but could not find anything suitable for this project. The term of this panel award is for 2 years with an additional 3 one-year options. The recommendation is that Council awards the contract to Sessions, Downer and Countrywide, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to sign and seal relevant documents, and also for as Chief Executive to authorise any extensions.
Thank you. Director Goonan. Is there anyone that wishes to ask a question to this particular item?
Sorry.
Come forward and state your name. I know we know you, Anne, but
So to the chair, Marcus, are you able to answer if there's once the, for instance, say asphalt's filled into a roadway as they built, how often, what's the warranty period, I suppose, for the contractors to maintain that and make sure that we're not going back to repair it when it's already broken on, I suppose, in a short period of time?
Absolutely. So it does vary depending on the contract. So road construction contract will generally be 12 months. So there's what's called a defects period over that 12 months. So we do an initial inspection after the contractor advises us that the works are complete, and then the clock starts ticking from there for 12 months, which is called final completion. With these type of projects, they're going to tend to be more just the supply of the material and maybe some minor patching works. Because they're under a panel, it depends on the size of the works, but generally they don't have a defects period. There would be a warranty on product though.
Yeah.
thank you. That's a very relevant question. Is there anyone else that would like to ask a question to this particular item? All right, councillors, we have a recommendation. Would someone like to move it? Councillor Fuller? Someone second? Councillor Maxwell? Would anyone like to speak to the particular recommendation? Councillor Maxwell? No? All right, we've got moved by Councillor Fuller and seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Are we all in agreement? Thank you, councillors. We then move to item number 14.2, which is the award, supply and delivery of concrete. Another important item to council, and Director Goonan, provide some background, please.
This report is presented to council to award a panel contract for supply and delivery of concrete. Again, council officers explored opportunities for collaboration with other councils, public bodies that were unable to find any suitable. Historically, this tender has received minimal submissions and often resulted in a sole supplier outcome. The tender process was conducted via e-procure, open to all registered contractors. The review of the contractor list ensured that all companies supplying concrete within a 100-kilometre radius were registered. Of these, 4 companies downloaded the tender documentation, with 2 submitting a final proposal. This contract term is set for an initial 2 years, with an option of 2 additional extensions of 1 year. The recommendation is that council awards the panel contract to Mawsons and Lima South Quarries, authorises the Chief Executive Officer to sign and seal relevant contract documents, including any extensions.
Director Goonan, is there a question from the audience to this particular item? Should we have a council to move the recommendation of Councillor Fitzpatrick? Someone to second? Councillor Benton? Councillor Fitzpatrick, would you like to speak to him? Councillor Benton? Okay, so Councillor Fitzpatrick and Councillor Benton to second. Are we all in agreement? Thank you, councillors. We now move to, because we don't have item 21, which is public question time. We have already, we are in receipt of two questions, and I note that the questioner is in the audience. Do you want to come forward, Jennifer, and speak to your questions, or were you just happy for us to answer them? Yes. Yep, all right. Okay, so Jennifer Garrett asked the following questions for council meeting 6 p.m. on the 26th of November 2024, which was directed to Director Sarah Brindley for response. The question, at the council elections, the rural city of Wangaratta governance team issued all candidates with election signage rules, which were a combination of local law, planning scheme and VEC requirements. The two-part question is, how were these rules policed? And two, what penalties were applied to those who breached the rules? So Director, CEO?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Jennifer, for your question. Correct, we did distribute to all candidates a set of the rules applying to election signage. I'm only aware of one breach of that being reported to us. We addressed that with the candidate and it was corrected, and there were no fines or any further things issued as a result of any breaches that we became aware of.
Thank you, CEO.
Sorry, can I ask a question then?
Well, if you come forward and just for transparency to actually say who you are.
So Jennifer Garrett, and my question is, how was it policed?
So we didn't go out doing proactive inspections around the municipality. We relied on reports of any issues to be made to us, and we had one of those which we were able to address. Like many of our compliance issues, we are generally dealing with things that are reported to us rather than going out and discovering problems.
Right, so if it's reported to you, then you react.
We'll address it.
Okay, so Jennifer, you asked the following questions for council meeting again today, 6 p.m, which was directed to Sarah Brindley. And the question is, transparency of council was a key issue at the recent council election. In an effort to improve the transparency of mayor and deputy mayor election process, prior to voting, could the public and indeed other councillors who are voting hear a short verbal statement from those nominating about what they bring to the respective positions? And given that I was involved in that, I can say that the election of mayor and deputy was an open and transparent process. It was conducted in the council chamber, and that particular meeting was open to the public. The governance rules allows for candidates to speak to their election, and that's at the discretion of the nominee. And on that particular night, no one elected to do that.
I think, as I saw it, it was asked for nominees and then it was asked for a vote. There was no one was actually asked if they would like to speak to their nomination. So I just felt that.
Well, there was an opportunity for people to do that if they wanted to, but nobody indicated that was what they wanted to do.
Just looking at the video, it didn't show that. It just showed asking for nominations and then asked for a vote.
I think in the chamber itself, it was quite obvious that there was no one that really wanted to speak to that particular.
But my point is for the public, particularly when there is multiple nominees, it would be lovely to hear what people bring to it so we can understand the way that the council is voting. So it would be lovely to hear sort of.
Well, I think it was clear how the council voted because it was undertaken in a public space.
Yes, but we didn't hear what the two nominees for the mayoral position had to offer. So that's where this question is coming from.
I understand what you're asking, yes.
That's just a point and a question that maybe in the future we could have a look at.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the audience tonight, please? If you could come forward.
Is it on this subject or?
On any subject.
Right.
And if we're able to answer the question, we certainly will, and if we can't, we'll take it on notice and provide the answer to you as soon as we possibly
My
can.
name is Michael Sandlin. I'm the president of the Senior Citizens Club here in Wangaratta.
Yep.
Our membership is about 140 at this stage.
Yep.
Now we operate the Tara Court
Yes.
5 days a week, every afternoon.
Yep.
Now, one of the problems I can see, the art centre going ahead, there's 46 places over there. Now, I'm 80 years old, but there's a lot of members a lot older than me. We've got 40 wheelers, there's no way they can go from the car park down the coast door over to here. So it's a big problem. Now, they utilise that 46 spaces most days. I think we've only got about 3 parks around the back, right? It's not only our problem, I think the church, the school, and even the art centre here, there's got to be parking there for them. Now, my suggestion, I put it in the paper a couple of weeks ago, I don't know whether anyone saw it, but why not go up 1 story with your art centre? I'm not against art centres, in fact I do a bit of artwork myself, but losing 46 spaces is too much for what we need up this end of town. As you know, parking short. You can't park over in Big W for more than 2 hours or under, where you get booked. We have got passes that we can put on our cars, but you can't park a kilometre away. You can't expect people to walk the wheelers, and we've got quite a few. We've got our oldest member's 95. Now,
Well, you're just saying that you've got passes in your cars, then surely that would entitle you to park in Big
we can
W.
park anywhere in the street there,
Yeah,
but most days, as
well,
you
maybe
know,
that's something that we could work out with Big W in terms of people with passes could, stay longer. But, that's,
Well, people have been booked and they've had their pass on the car over in Big W.
yeah, right.
So, but my suggestion is, it's going to cost you more to go up.
It's going to cost a whole lot more to go up,
Well,
and I
it
think
will.
that was something we considered.
But in the long
The
run,
cost was
a
prohibitive.
few $100,000 now could save a lot of problems later on with your parking, right? Now, with 46 parks, we might lose 6 or 8, right? If you're going up, like under Big W here. But it's short-sighted to just say, we'll knock all that over, lose all those parks, and then on of the night there, people park there, the school, also the, what's the name? I think they've already complained, the schools and the church for parking. But as far as senior citizens go, it's very crucial that we've got that park there, right?
Okay. Right, I understand what you're saying, Michael, and I'll get the CEO to comment on that, but, just to know that, in terms of the cultural precinct and the work that's been done, there's been a huge amount of work that's gone into the planning for that, and we're
Yeah, I
still
realise that.
working with the community to ensure that it's going to be, the best possible outcome, and to go up has been considered, but the cost is more than $200,000. It's quite prohibitive. So, there's other ways that we can work through this process, but I'll leave it to the CEO to provide some answers to.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. There is a planning permit application being assessed at the moment for that project. One of a number of things that we'll have to be able to demonstrate through the planning application is that we can provide sufficient parking, and that will need to be demonstrated in the same way as it would for anybody else applying to the council for approval to do a project like this. We've done a number of reviews of parking availability around the CBD, and in general they tell us that there is still parking capacity available most of the time, despite the fact that people often tell us that there isn't any parking available. And that's done by actual observations of the car parks and parking practices. Very happy once that planning permit application kind of gets to the point of being determined to come and have conversations with the senior cits about whether there might be different or additional requirements that we might need to make. Maybe that we need a couple of extra disabled bays, or as Mayor suggested, it may be that we need to make some alteration to the permit approvals that are available to members so that they can make sure they can park close by and not be at risk of being fined for that. So I think there's a number of options that can be considered to accommodate your needs, assuming the planning permit is ultimately issued in favour of that development.
That's why I wanted to bring it up now, because it's too late once the planning's going through. I think that there's quite a few in that area are against losing those parks. You know, on the day that the Italian club had their meal there, there's 140 people over there. And we run a function at the same time. You can't tell me that there's a park within half a kilometre of that venue. So there's already a crisis at different days. And when we hold a dance, there's 38 members or something, and you've got another 24 in the other park. Where do they get parks, you know? So it is a big worry for us. It's been brought up by our members, our board, and we're just speaking on their behalf. I mean, I know it costs money to go up. It's big W did it here, and look at the car parks under there. Great. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark, for raising the issue, and it's not something that, you know, we're ignoring, and we're working with, you know, you and the community generally to ensure that we get the best outcome.
I don't know whether Ken wants to speak to it.
It's question time, it's not, you know, discussion time, so, you know, if you've got a question, please come forward, otherwise, please state your name.
Ken Daly, I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the Wangaratta Seniors. First question, will the Council vigorously pursue government funding for the proposed community hub at Marina Park? That's a question. As most would know, for the benefit of the new councillors, Wangaratta, the second biggest city in the northeast after Wodonga, has no senior citizens community centre or any public hall, for want of a better word. Little Chiltern, with approximately 1,000 people, has a Wangaratta Senior Citizens Club, centre, and not so long ago, new community hub, which is fairly disgraceful for Wangaratta, quite frankly. So my question again is, will the Council very vigorously pursue government funding for the community hub at Marina Park?
Also, in response to your question, Ken, Council is pursuing funding, but as you would be aware that funding both from federal and state is pretty tight, but we're certainly working as hard as we possibly can to ensure that, you know, whatever's out there that we can be recipients of. But I'll ask Director Goonan to respond to you.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for your question, Ken. I think it's a very relevant one. I know that my staff have been talking to the senior cits pretty consistently over the last 12 months. We're up to our third application that unfortunately has been knocked back now. Each one of those applications requires a really significant amount of detail that we're certainly looking hard at every opportunity and every piece of funding that comes across. That is one of our main advocacy projects, sits within our 10 advocacy projects that Council have endorsed, and we continue to look for funding for that. It doesn't mean that needs to be the sole way that we move forward. There is other options out there, and as I'm sure you've been aware, we've sort of talked about some of the other options that might enable a move out to Arena Park that wouldn't involve the full senior cits being built right at the moment. But you know, happy to continue having those further discussions, and we're certainly trying to get funding from anywhere that we can.
Okay. Thanks, Ken. Anyone else who'd like to ask a question? Come forward and state your name.
John Kirby from Moyu and Moyu Action Group. We'd like to congratulate the councillors on your election to council. We at Moyu Action Group appreciate you as councillors will lead us for the next 4 years, and we understand it's a serious and sometimes onerous undertaking, and we salute you. Now down to business.
Well, thanks for the preamble.
We from Moyu require work to be done in our neck of the woods, work that will not only benefit the local business up and down the valley, up the economy of Wangaratta. We have a good, better, best approach to the jobs we would like you to attend to. Good would be a formed walking bike trail for our primary school children to use from the corner of Bartley Street and Burn Street.
So that's a question, John?
Beg your pardon?
So that's a question, you're asking for a formed path?
Yes?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. I know it sounds like a statement.
It doesn't mean
Yeah, so that would be to the bridge that goes over Boggy Creek in Kangaroo Bridge. At the moment, it does seem a bit unsafe for kids to be walking along that side of the road. On the other side of the bridge, there is a bike trail all the way to the school crossing. Now, better would be a rail trail from the Oxley roundabout to Moyhu. Something that my friend John Bridges has been working on for some time. He put in a fantastic submission last year or the year before. And best would be a walking path from the intersection of Burn and Bartley Street to the recreation reserve. Of course, there are many more jobs or help towards projects such as footbridge over Boggy Creek connecting the walking path to the King River and the Lions Path. Basically, the question at the end is, would you work tirelessly to help us achieve our goals in and around Moyhu?
Well, the short answer to the tirelessly working with you, absolutely, John. That's what we'll certainly do. I'll just get the CEO to respond to the questions you've asked, just with regard to a process which Council is introducing in this term around sort of budget requests such as you put here today.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. We are proposing to change the way we do community consultation for our budgets. In the past, we've typically developed a draft budget, which we spend months and months pulling together. Then we ask people for comments or suggestions at the sort of end of that process, where it's very hard to accommodate changes, and ultimately we end up making a few minor alterations and adopting a final version. This time around, we'll be doing that budget consultation prior to developing the draft. The timing of that, Director Brindley, is that late this year or early next calendar year? We will be going out and asking that question. Early next calendar year for budgets.
It's actually going to come in the next week or two, so that will come out to the community and we'll make sure we get the link to you.
So there's the first solid opportunity to put in a submission for funding for particular projects. So get your head together with your Moyhu comrades there and make sure you've got some detail and some costings if that's possible, so you can submit that. The second thing I was going to reference was the infrastructure plans that we did in Moyhu. I don't know whether any of those three projects were included when that consultation was undertaken to develop that infrastructure plan or not. Marcus is kind of nodding and kind of screwing up his face.
Yeah, so I would need to go back and have a look. I'm fairly sure the footpath down over Boggy Creek, connecting up the river, which is the one that still requires a bridge, which I know one of my staff is working with the Moyhu Action Group on, was definitely on there. I don't believe the others were. Certainly from the rail trail connection to Oxley, that is one that we've had a number of conversations about, but there is currently no design. We're obviously looking to complete the works that we have already designed, which essentially go up towards Whitfield and through to Chestnut.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward and ask a question? If not, I'll just remind everyone that's here tonight that our next meeting will be on the 10th of December, prior to Christmas. It will be held here in the chamber, and invite everyone to come along. And And thank everyone for their presence here tonight, and I'll officially close the meeting. Thank you.